Hello everyone. Sorry for the delay in giving an update on this, but I think we're at a good enough point now that I can show what we're doing. Previously, with this EDF6 manual, we had it fully working and did exactly what we wanted single player. However, when we tried to use it with a larger group, it caused the generation times to tank significantly. I've been doing a kind of deep dive into all of the different factors that were causing that and rewrote almost everything. For context, one of the files in this was about 10,000 lines. Now it's 44,000. I had to rip apart and redo things in a different way to get the same result in a way that's easier for the program to process. But also, it allowed me to do some other improvements I was planning on trying to find a way. So it balances out. And let's just go over where we're at now. So what I've got in front of me is the YAML template. So if you installed this version of it, this is the template you'd get to work from. So I can show you the options in here from what we have now. Player name, that's normal. Progression balancing is normal. Accessibility is normal. There is a lot of duplicate goals now. Hard, hardest, and inferno for every single one, as well as 4 for each with different descriptors at the end. So what I had to do was add the requirements for that check into it to have, well, I had to have a different location name to make it actually function, but this allowed me to also put in the requirements for that. So when you're actually playing the manual, in the list there, you can see, oh, I need level 65 to access this check. I'll get into how I came up with these numbers more later, but we've got the levels, the characters, and how many weapons for every single one, scaled in different ways. Filler traps, this one doesn't do anything. We use the one at the bottom. Unfortunately, I can't get rid of that. Deathlink is fun, so I keep that on. Enable DLC 1 and 2, those are there. Hardest and Inferno. If you enable Inferno but have Hardest disable, Inferno will not activate. It has to be one then the other. With the way I've built things, they are not separate. I added some starting options. So by default, you will start with the bare minimum equipped for your class. So the Ranger will only have a weapon and an equipment. The vehicle slot can be set to nothing, so I set that as the bare minimum. If you enable this option, however, and get randomly assigned the Ranger to start, you will also get a vehicle. Same with the Raider. Wing Diver already has the full equipment because you can't remove the core. And then Fencer also, gets an equipment class. Extra starting weapon is just a random weapon for whichever class, because sometimes you get stuck with ones that you're not entirely fond of. So these are the two big options that change how everything works, and these are the acronyms at the end of the goals above. Progression requires levels. Certain missions require, if you enable this, certain missions, every mission will require an increasing amount of levels unlocked. If you are only using the level option and not the unlock, it is the total level across every class. So you have the class unlocked to start, that's level 5. You unlock another class, you now have level 10, according to the logic. So that's 65 for Nameless Hard that we saw above, would be 65 across all of your classes. So you could have all 4 classes, that's 20, and then only 45 levels on top spread out between them. I'm still trying to balance those numbers, and the run I'm about to start is using just this option without the unlocks. If, however, you use the level and unlocks, it functions similar to before, where if any class at all reaches that level, you have met the check. So if it says it requires level 40, you could have Ranger level 40, Air Raider level 40, Wing Diver level 40, or Fencer level 40. It doesn't matter which, as long as any of them meet that level. And I did it this way because if you require the unlocks, it also guarantees a number of characters unlocked for you. By the end, you're guaranteed to have 3 of them. And it drops it to a 25% chance that the one that's at the level isn't the one that you have unlocked. But the further you get in the game, the more likely you are to have them all anyways, so kind of discounts itself that way. I put in a short description here of which difficulties require which level. The main part I still need to balance is only the level, not the unlocks. How much do you need? Because in total, there's 480 levels, and the highest thing right now only needs 195. So that feels wrong, but also early game, it's going to feel like you're way too powerful. So I haven't figured out how exactly I'm going to adjust this yet. From both of them, though, previously, we had it also check that you had the class unlocked and that the levels were for it. We dropped that requirement of that specific class being unlocked just to speed up things a little. And if you only have the unlocks option, not the levels, it will... Actually, this functions the same either way. At certain points, it will check that you have a second character, and every single act will need an additional weapon on any class at all. As you get more classes, it's more likely those weapons apply to a class you have, so it works itself out in the end. With this, I also made it so hardest difficulty and Inferno from Mission 1 require a second character. So you will not get thrown in there immediately. It requires you to have a better chance of applicable stuff before going up. Again, both these are toggleable. Don't want it, don't turn it on. Easy. The next big change is the max level size. We had it as +5 max levels, so you get 5 from your character. That's still the same regardless. But then you get +5s and add them up to your total level. This created a ton of progression items in the pool, and that, when paired with the requiring the level, slowed down the times of generation a lot. If you're in a group of, say, 20 people, you really want to increase this number to 15 or 20, just to make sure the generation time doesn't take forever. You can ask the host if it's okay, but in general, a bigger number here will speed up the times and make it less painful to actually start playing the game. For the run I've actually got my file here. I set it to a random number, so I don't know how big my chunks are going to be, but it won't be 5, so we get to see how that actually feels when we play it. But in total, the 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 will total up to either 75 or 80. And then with the 5 for the character, that leaves 40 or 35 of the +1s. So there is still a significant balance between them. I set it so only these ones are considered in logic. Sorry, for the progression balancing, because it's a larger chunk at once. The +1s skip the balancing, so it's possible to get ahead earlier in your seed and then slow down later, but it's also a easier spread of levels to make things just less painful trying to go up when it gives 325s to one character you don't have and then you're screwed. It's a compromise, but you can choose how big these are. If you're in a small group of people, 5, 10 at most, use the 5 option. It's perfectly fine. But now you get a choice of how big you want these chunks to be. I also figured out how to get the armor, traps, crates, and boons. The traps, crates, and boons don't technically do anything yet, but you can see them in the resulting game to know when it would have happened. if I get from the manual stage into actually making this, then they'll do something, but you set a ratio for how much you want them to be. Right now it's 60% armor, 20% random crates, which would be the equipment giving you 10% traps, and 10% heals. I figured out how to make it so regardless of what you set these, this is a ratio, not the specific amount of them in the pool. I've got my file over here to do a bunch of crazy math and actually adjust those numbers to be very close to the correct amount. If I didn't screw it up, we should see 0 of the supply crates, I think was the generic word I gave for the filler item. If we see any of those, then we have screwed up our numbers in my file and I need to adjust it, but don't worry about that. It's a ratio, choose the percentage of each you want. And then these are just default Archipelago things. It can be good to put non-local items for your traps, and then you can pretend those do things. Because for us, the traps never actually will apply to ourselves. We receive them on mission end when we actually get the medal for completing it, so the trap can't apply. So it's kind of silly. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I have just spun up a seed, and I'm going to be doing a multi-world with my community members. So we're going to see how this actually plays out. I have chosen just to do the hardest difficulty as before, with my goal being either Nameless, Code N, right? Yes, Nameless or Code N. I did not include DLC 2. So I don't know which one I'm going to be doing, but it's a decent chunk of the game regardless. And I've got another game plus some jigsaws, and we'll see how it works using only the level and these numbers, and we can figure out if or how we adjust it afterwards. That's all I've got for you right now. Stay tuned. Beep boop.